Hey everybody, I am so sorry for coming on so late. It was a crazy, crazy night last night. And by crazy, when you're a parent, you know, you think, oh, it was a wild night, like your kids were up late, probably. Yes. The youngest one was up late, which equated in me staying up late. And today was my day off. So I ended up getting a late start to the day. So having a late breakfast, my green tea and a banana. And I just kind of wanted to just talk about, some stuff that was on my mind and introduce you guys to what's going to be the new show on Tuesdays called Lunch with Dre. Basically, it's going to be kind of the way the Wednesday show worked. And the way the Wednesday show worked was, I'd sometimes maybe have a guest come on. Uh, we would talk about toy news. We would talk about what's just going on in the world, in the world of toys and collecting and stuff like that. So obviously you know, I will give some shout outs to some great channels that you guys need to be watching, like Dave's Dimension. Tonight, Dave is going to have some killer content talking about some stuff that came out of C2E2. If you guys are into the convention news, there was a lot of stuff that came out of there, especially in the world of Mondo. Now we know that Mondo used to be a part of Funko. Then, or Mondo was its own company. Then it was bought by Funko. Then Funko sold them off, and now they're kind of flying solo. But during that time, under the Funko umbrella, they got a lot of licenses that they were starting to do, and several of the big things that they did were like Motu. They did a lot of the stuff for the Motu. So if you guys are fans of Master of the Universe and X Men, they did a lot of cool stuff with those figures. They made the 1/6 scale X Men '97 figures. They did the Gambit and the Rogue are like the best. Or the Rogue would be the one I wanted to get, and I missed out on her. So aftermarket on her is going to be a pain in the ass. But they did do some really cool other stuff. They started doing they started dabbling in like collectibles, and I don't want to say collectibles in the sense of like what's the word I'm using? Like they did posters, they did like vinyl art. They did a lot of cool things that were, unique to Mondo, but you could tell had like a Funko tinge to it. When then Funko let them go, and once they let them go, it became, well, what's next? And they just dropped some big news. I'm not going to talk about the news here. I just want to say go watch Dave's show. I might know somebody who's going to be on it besides Dave. And it was interesting. It was a big piece of news that came out, and it might rock or change a little bit what's going on in the collecting community. Who knows? My brother, Figure Fever, how's it going? Excuse me. Now, some of the other cool stuff that is going on in the collecting community are like these new like trends people have been talking about. One of the trends I had said, and this was something I said about a year ago, and a year ago, I almost to the day, I had to look at the videos, and it was almost a year ago to the day. And I talked to Dave about this last night. I said that because of all, and I know I'm going to get hate for this, and I don't care if I get hate for it. It is what it is. If you shop at Ross, shop at Burlington, shop at Ollie's, and any of these third party stores that are, or I should say, after retail stores, and you're looking to get modern deals on toys at discounted prices, Targets, Walmarts, GameStops, Walgreens are not going to carry those toys anymore because you screw up distribution. Now, I had several friends that work in distribution on higher levels of distribution, and it's simple economics. If I don't buy something, there's no reason to supply it. If you go to if like a perfect example, I went to Target the other day and I'm strolling down the Marvel Legends aisle and there's nothing, completely nothing. Not a single legend. All the pegs are empty. You go through Transformers, it's slightly empty. Nah, there's some stuff there, and they're a little bit more expensive. Joe's, the Viper Ninja, the Cobra Island Ninja, and I keep saying to myself, like, why? Like, there should be like the Spider-Man figures. All the Spider-Man figures should be on those pegs. All those Spider-Man figures. Unless you're like me, who's a diehard fan, that they're not supplying them fast enough. So here's what I do my research because I'm a historian. I like to do the due diligence to see what the trends are. So I look online and I'm noticing that there's a trend away from retail, and that trend has been happening since last year. So if you follow that trend since actually before that, this trend has been going on since like pre-pandemic stuff. It was the pandemic spiked it, and then it got a little bit better, and then inflation, and then now things are tanking again. So again, I'm not trying to get into the full economics of it. I mean, I could do a whole video just on that. But when you sit down and you start going through the complete utter craziness of what's going on, you start realizing that retailers made that realization that if you move things to online, people like that convenience of just point, click, ship, charge my debit card. The very selected few people, like, look at the toy hunter trend. I mean, that's another thing I'll get into in a second, but I digress. I want to get back to the point. So, and it's going to come full circle. So I promise it. And within this hour, we will come back to that. So we see the stores that sell toys getting worse. Walmart's not carrying stuff or pulling stuff out the back that have been in like that are like a year, almost like 6 months, a year old, and you still see these videos with people trying to stay up with the algorithm. They're trying to keep up with the freaking algorithm. Like, oh, I need to put a Ross in my video. I need to put an Ollie's in my video. I need to put a Burlington in my video because that'll get views because the algorithm says so. Rah, there, buddy. No, you freaking idiot. It you ruined the retail scheme. And I hate to say scheme. I think of it more as like it's a planogram, like there is a reason and a rhyme, you know. If you don't buy at retail, why do you think Hasbro sells certain figures like their Marvel Legend lines only to online retailers or specialty shops like comic book shops or GameStops? Why do you think that last line, which we just got before the Spider-Man wave, that stupid the Void wave, which was like, it's damn near impossible to find. It was only sold on Hasbro. It was only sold to comic book stores if they bought it, and GameStops if they bought it. So I hunted at GameStops, and I hate GameStop. I absolutely despise GameStop. And I couldn't find that Power Princess, which is the one figure I want from that set besides Crystar. Which big shout out to Figure Fever for hooking a brother up and finding it because I have not found Crystar anywhere. And Power Princess, I'm not willing to pay $40. I'm sorry, I'm unwilling to pay $40 for a Marvel Legend. It's a $20 figure. It shouldn't be more than $25. I'm not paying for that. Like, nope. And if I find her, I'm lucky. Awesome. If somebody finds her and gets her for me, awesome. That's how I've looked at it. I will repay you. But I digress. If you're seeing the trend start going that way and the pegs are getting emptier, but then here's that weird, again, this inverse reaction. You're mad at Targets for not carrying new merchandise because you went to the discounted store to get the merchandise you're not buying there. Dumbass. 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 Whoever thinks that, you're stupid. And if I get hate for that and I get negative comments, please comment below. It helps the algorithm. That's literally how I look at it, because you cannot have, it's a causal relationship. If I don't buy something at the main retailer, it's not going to make it to the distro, to the discounted distributor, because it's going to have to stay at Hasbro or at, in Hasbro, they've canceled a lot of what they're selling anyway, because if it doesn't make it to Hasbro, it goes beyond, it goes to like Amazon. And if it doesn't go from Amazon, it'll take 6 months or longer to get to that retailer, to the discounted retailer. So what are you waiting for, really? To save 12 bucks? Okay, well then don't buy toys. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, prioritize what's important in your life. Like, and at the same time, I'm not saying to just collectors. This is speaking to the scalper community. This is speaking to the uh this is speaking to several different areas of the toy hunting and the toy collecting community as a whole. You know, like, the trend is shifted away from that. And then now, the other part of this, now here's the other causal relationship of that. So now if you can't find the new legends or figures you like, or because of the fact that these retailers aren't carrying figures you want, what happens? What's the new relationship? People start shifting to vintage collecting and or high end collecting. Now, I kind of shifted myself into the higher end collecting. Yes, recently I did pick up two Grail figures of mine. I parted with a bunch of McFarlane, a bunch of Marvel Legends that just did not fit my collecting trend, what I want, what I've been doing for the last 6 months. So I parted with them, and I'm probably going to part with the rest of my McFarlane, except for maybe three figures that were bought for me from friends like Phil and Dave. Like, they bought me Marvel Legends that, or not Marvel Legends, they bought me um, McFarlanes that I will never part with because they mean a lot to me. But the rest of them, they can all go. And the idea that I'm seeing amongst collectors is that it's like you're mad at they get mad and they're like, well, I had to go vintage because poop on Hasbro and poop on this one and poop on that one and blah blah blah. And I'm like, why are we blaming Hasbro? Hasbro's in corporate trouble if y'all ain't paying attention. And I think a lot of collectors don't. Have you not realized what's going on with Hasbro? That they're selling their distribution out to, they're fielding it out to other people, and they're just selling them the licenses. Like, have nobody seen this? I mean, like, watch the news, read up on Hasbro. Like, Nerd Affiliated, I think, is probably one of the few collecting channels out there that's actually reporting solid news about these sorts of things. And big shout out to them. I love Hey Archer and the Nerd Affiliated crew. Y'all knock it out the park. And it's the truth. Like, look at the trends. Follow what's going on. If you notice stuff is not working, why do you sit there and try to think that, oh well, I'm gonna collect differently because they're not servicing my needs? Who cares? There's a massive world online. All right, I'm sorry. I wanna see what Fig Fever said something, so I'm gonna address his comment. Says Dre, I don't mind to change the subject. I was searching for the Walmart exclusive McFarlane Owlman. Four Walmart stores near me have carried this figure. I think distribution with certain retail stores are poor, and that, honestly, I was talking with several friends about that recently, and a lot of distribution, and again, this goes back to the friends I have that work in that as a career. They work for major airlines and major companies doing distribution. Allocation goes based on need and highest need in areas. So, for example, no, no, it's okay, dude. Don't apologize. Allocation goes based on need, and allocation also goes to where the primary location of these ships where they land. Think of where the docks are: California, Florida. It was what, California, Florida, Texas. Those are where the 3 major shipping lanes are. So if you look that where those things come in, West Coast gets hit first. So you California always I have ever since I've been an active toy collector, everybody always that posted on the Facebook groups, that posted on Instagram, that posts on, you know, Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it, they always say, "Man, California, check it out, Sacramento, LA, northern, southern, west Washington state, we see it here." And it's always there. And then you see it show up in Texas. And people would be like, "Oh man, I'm in Austin. Look at this in my targets, blah blah blah." And then it's like Florida would show it next. And then you'd see like a lot of guys like Seth and and a lot of the Florida hunters always would talk about it. Like they'd be like, "Hey, look, we're starting to see distribution." I have not seen that. Like, I'm not a wrestling figure collector anymore. I pick up a few every now and then, but that new Yokozuna, the I've never seen it at Target, and they found it. That Hulk Hogan exclusive, never seen it. It's it's there. Heck, I haven't seen the Roman Reigns Ultimate figure in store, the Kurt Angle, the Bobby Lashley, the Bianca Belair. Not seeing any of those. Didn't even see the Monday Night Wars exclusive ones to Walmart. I don't really shop at Walmart all that often, but like I haven't seen a lot of those things. And that's allocation. And then New York gets it, and then it starts trickling out across the country. Now, are there places where there might be better allocation because there's higher population density? Which again, I don't want to bore people with statistics, but if you follow the idea that areas that are more densely populated means more money would be spent, means more items and stuff would go there. I mean, that's just simple economics, folks. Again, I did teach economics and political science. These are things I know. So the logic then starts going, well, what do you do? How do we pick these things up? How do we get it? Well, you could order it and pre-order it. I mean, that's what I do. Like, perfect example. I'm going to use this because it's an import figure, but I waited till Bluefin is the company that ships it here into the US. I love Ultraman. Ultraman figures, not that easy to come by. A lot of SH Figure Arts are not, they're very expensive. This figure was about $100 plus or minus. All right, so plus or minus $100. Now, plus or minus $100 for this figure. I waited and I was like, man, I really want to get it. Big shout out to my boy Toyco, Andrew at Toyco in California. Love what he gets. Always has great pre-orders. A lot of y'all know I follow him and I get a lot of stuff from him. Hey, I'm glad you lurked in, my brother. So Amazon always knows I buy a lot of SH Figure Arts through Amazon because sometimes there's just good deals. There's sometimes I catch a good figure deal. I want to grab it. This one was a flash sale. I always click the flash sales because I look for stuff for my daughters, my wife, just different things. This popped up for $70. I was like, $70? Hell yeah, I'm gonna get you. And I grabbed them. Now, I waited for a flash sale. I could have paid the full retail. Didn't really need the figure. Know that aftermarket, he's selling for about $125. That would have been my bad on getting the figure. So again, it do I did I get away from talking about my trend? Yes, because I want to get back to that. So I'm gonna bring it back to that topic, and then we're gonna come back into because I did at the end of this, I want to go over pickups. I saw that you did that. Very cool. Yeah. So our boy Captain Spaulding, which you guys don't know, this is my Figure Fever. For if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna say Figure Fever is East Coast like me. Captain Spaulding, my brother from another mother, is on the West Coast. So he ends up getting a lot of good deals. And he does a lot of like nextdoor.com. He does a lot of like he shops a lot of different places and he gets a lot of great NECA and horror deals. So if y'all ever looking, he is the dude to talk to about finding those deals through those websites. Definitely my brother from another. So so with collecting taking that trend to go to high end, and I guess that's why I did take that figure out. High end collecting and vintage costs about the same. And if people want to argue that point with me, please come on here. I'll argue it and debate it with you. Price points are about the same. The only difference is if you spend $400 on a hot toy, or do you want to spend $400 for an inbox Ewok Village? You know, like Jabba Sail Barge, $1,200, brand new inbox. I mean, there's very few things I can think of right now that are like 1,200 bucks that are like a Solo Chokojin, uh, Go Lion Voltron, $700. You know, like modern collectors and even vintage collectors are seeing that. And Captain Spaulding says he agrees. He says, I was up. I agree. Vintage and what you just said are about the same price, especially if they're discontinued. And he's very right. And Voltron is one of them right now. Voltron, for whatever reason, because I know that they just released, and my friend that lives in Georgia, big shout out to Darth LVJ, he just got the Black Lion, and I actually saw the Black Lion. I had it in my cart on Saturday afternoon. I was about to buy it, and then I decided not to because I don't want plastic with all these voice activated parts inside of it. It just didn't. That's that doesn't scream to me. I liked Voltron, just the Defender of the Universe, die cast metal, put the figure together, and that's what I want. And eventually, I will get that Voltron figure in my collection by hook, by crook, by really by selling parts of my other collection that I don't want off and eventually funding it myself. But yeah, like that's how you look at it. So following that those two very large pendulum swings with really no middle ground. And the middle ground is the new collector. So let's just follow this trend with me. You have the new collector that's coming in that's like, hey, I like toys, I like Marvel Legends. Marvel Legends right now are about as really entry level, really GI Joe classifieds. They're at your $24 price point, right? McFarlane still is at the 21.99 price point. That's where you're kind of entering in now. Now the pendulum sways. If you're going to go into some higher end stuff, like you're looking at NECA, I won't say NECA. NECA kind of still is it. I would, and I think Captain Spaulding would agree. Uh, and Ruben, let me just ask you this: Do you think NECA is still entry level for their price point? Like, what would you, if you guys here in the chat, what would you put as a price point as to a new collector, like brand spanking new? What would you say a new collector's price point entering in would be coming in now in 2024? I think $40 is about the cap, and $40 is like your base, like your special edition NECA, a what was it? A medium class. I forgot the Voyager class transformer. Um, a GI Joe 2 pack. Of figures or a collector, a GI Joe with a bunch of accessories, and or a vehicle pack. Um, even what was it? An ultimate WWE figure, $35. AEW Supreme figures, $42. Um, Black Series Collector's Edition, $35. So, do we want to say that like that entry level price point is about a $40 price point now? Like if you're getting a single or getting into collecting, that the highest would be that price point? Because that's what I'm thinking. If you guys agree, comment. So Ruben says, or I should say, Captain Spaulding says, NECA is an entry level collecting just because of the variety. And I agree with that. I think NECA has the most variety for an entry level collector. I think if you look at the trend of saying that you have figures from several varieties and genres, you have horror, you have sci-fi, you have turtles. I mean, you have cartoons, you have you know, McFarlane, I think, would be the only other one I could say on par as a company has a variety of figures because he dipped his toe into anime, he dipped his toe into comic books. He has the Page Puncher large figures, the Page Puncher mini figures. He has his regular line of McFarlane. Then he has the DC Multiverse. I mean, you do have several different varieties of figures. So if we can agree that $40 might be about the max an entry collector could spend to get into the hobby, and I'm not saying like as a and again, people will probably complain in the comments, be like, "Oh man, $40 ain't shit, man. And $40 is what." No, I'm saying $40 is like if I go to a Target and I want to buy a figure, as an adult collector that has a certain amount of money to spend, I want to get something that's going to be cool. Would $40 be that price point? So let's see. Fig Fever says, yes, I don't know how NECA did it, but to get all those licenses, so many brands and characters, etc. Yeah, I would agree. NECA probably right now, as an American-based company, probably has the best amount of licenses next to McFarlane and Hasbro, obviously, because Hasbro owns, Hasbro has Transformers, G.I. Joe, uh, Power Rangers, which is gone, which I'm gonna do a whole video on Power Rangers. Believe you me, I'm gonna do a video on Power Rangers because I feel like it needs to be done. Um, and no offense to any of my friends that have done that. I need to rant on it. But yeah, Power Rangers, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Marvel Legends, Star Wars. Hasbro has 5 licenses that are the top 5 areas of a Target that are empty right now. But NECA, you walk in, they have Ninja Turtles. Under Ninja Turtles, you can branch out to everything within Ninja Turtles. You have horror. You have okay. So I like what Cap said. While I was starting to rant, he goes very quickly. He says $60 is the cap. All right. So if you're a new toy collector, we're gonna say you're in the middle, which I think that's actually a very good thing to say. So you're in the middle, you're just starting out, you walk in with like $60 in your pocket. You can walk out of a Target potentially with a good figure that has lots of accessories. You can walk out with at least 2 modest figures, a decent Transformer, at least a couple of wrestler figures, Motu, whatever you want, or a 2-pack of NECA. That's not a terrible thing at $60, right? But if you look back to maybe 7 years ago, I'm going to say 7 years ago, the entry level collector could have walked into a Target with $40 and walked out with just about the same amount of stuff. So times have definitely changed. Inflation has definitely changed that. So now let's see. Now let's sway. So what if I'm a collector that's been around for some time, myself as one of those, and a few of you gentlemen and ladies that watch this show. There's nothing you really like that these companies produce. And I'm going to use Power Rangers as an example. I like Power Rangers. Don't love it. I like it. But I like Kamen Rider. These figures are made by Bandai and SH Figuarts. So a lot of those figures are now starting to be sold at Target. Dragon Ball Z, Bluefin Tamashi. For those of you that don't collect, and I'm not trying to act like I know it all, I'm just giving you information. So if you are a seasoned collector that did not know, you can get a lot of anime SH Figuarts that are like the best selection. Now, best selection is the low end of the high end collecting pool. And when I say it like that, I look at it as this: best selection is a cheaper plastic, less accessories version of the $75 SH Figuarts. That's just a fact. So if you're spending 80 to $100 on an SH Figuarts that's relatively new, that's a higher quality plastic, it's a higher, more accessories, or it has a limited exclusivity. And sometimes some Targets carry those. The Dragon Ball Z figures you're getting are actually pretty quality because I've bought several of them from there back in the day. And I don't collect Dragon Ball Z as much. I do pick up a couple figures here and there. Now, that's your entry level into high level collecting, I say, is a SH Figuarts best selection. 35 bucks. That's where they start. Now, for me, if I'm looking at going a little higher, Anthony Figure Arts does produce figures like this guy I'm going to take back out, right? Now, let's say if those aren't your cup of tea. Hey, Rolando. So, what if those aren't your cup of tea? Well, I'm going to blame my friend for this. Fig Picks, Steven. There's Haya Toys. Haya Toys, which used to produce 1/18 typical 3 3/4 size figures, right? Now started making 1/12 scale figures. This is the PX exclusive Rambo. I have yet to open it up, and I'm going to do a review on this figure later this week. But this is one of the first lines that they just released from Big Bad Toys, and this was a $70 figure. Now there's another alternate version that's a $90, which is the black clothes variant. So you can get both of these. Now there's, like I said, this is the $70, then there's the $90. They both are this. The only difference is a colorway. Is a $20 difference for the colorway. This is the PX exclusive though. The cheaper one is, and that was what I didn't understand, was that I got the PX exclusive, which was cheaper. So, you know, this is definitely a good looking figure. I opened it up out of the box. I took a look at it inside the stuff. Great figure. Haya Toys though. Now Haya Toys does make a lot of 1/18th, and they do have a lot of like odd licenses. They do like Warcraft, not Warcraft, Warhammer, 40K. They did GI Joe. They actually did some releases for GI Joe and pre-orders later into this year. They do a lot of sci-fi. Now, for those of you that are really going to be like odd eccentric collectors, they do like Vitruvian Hacks, which is another company. They do that same scale, and so 1/18 scale for you 1/18 scale hunters. That Joy Toy, Haya Toys, they do aliens, they do Preds, Predators, for those of you that don't know the lingo. You can get those figures for $40 and under on Amazon. So just in case NECA, you don't want to go the full NECA 7, 8, 10-inch Predator, you can get a Alien or the Predator figures, and they have a lot more exclusive lines like figures you could get on Amazon or Haya Toys' website, and they're 1/18 scale. So again, not bad figures. I had a few, and I did sell them off because I just don't collect that scale. Now, again, $70 is a big price point, but we're still staying relatively close to that middle, right? Now, if we're shifting this way, this side where my green tea is, this side is the collector that collects high end, right? And it's not again, this is not like negative. This is not saying anything bad. This is just literally saying this is where you collect, where I collect. Now, the next tier up. I'm trying to see if I have it. Okay, so we'll go here because he was expensive. 30. 30 does amazing stuff. If you guys know that they just did the Power Ranger 1/6 scale figures, 30 also recently announced that they're doing the Edward Alaric and Alphonse from Full Metal Alchemist 1/6 scale figures. I pre-ordered both of those because I love Full Metal Alchemist. They look amazing. So they did from Valiant Comics Bloodshot. Now I liked Bloodshot the movie with Vin Diesel. I liked the comic book as a kid. And this one's I always liked the character because it's different. And recently Bloodshot just got put back in the comic books in Valiant Comics, and I was like, all right, I'll pick up the figure. I forgot that I pre-ordered it. And this was an $85 figure. And now here's the only issue I have. The box art is, you have the window, you have test shot, and then it has like a splash of like some poses, but like the rest is just writing. A little upset with that, but PX exclusive. So now we're starting to say, okay, so $85 gets you one figure with, and now PX exclusives, obviously, for those of you that don't know, PX exclusives is usually diamond collectibles, and they usually are like the stuff that's limited to, you can only get through specialty shops. So I usually try to pick up some of those when I can because not just for the collector's sake, I do like the accessories that sometimes those figures come with. So we're creeping into that. We're starting to creep into that high level spending, right? So now let's go towards the we're gonna reach. We're gonna blow that out the water. Mafex. This is not the Marvel Legend. This is the Mafex. This is Mafex Stealth Suit Captain America. Probably one of my absolute favorite versions of Captain America. Um, Chris Evans Captain America for the MCU. I do love Sam Wilson. I love Sam Wilson. I do have his hot toy. I do have his action figures. I do have his SH figure arts. This, when they released this, I never had the Marvel Legend. I don't have the hot toy. So this was as close to getting a little bit of both. So I needed this. This figure ran me $105. Now, mind you, it does not come with a whole lot. I get a lot of hands. I get 3 different head sculpts, or really 4 different head sculpts, 2 shields. People were up in arms about this. They were like, how? But why? Why spend so much money? Because it's such an expense. It's a dope ass figure. Look at what you can do. Like, folks, this is by far, now this to me is advertising. When you show me what you can do with the figure on the back of the box as poses, and you give me that Chris Evans head sculpt, that's fantastic. That's it right there. 105. Aftermarket for him is I think the aftermarket for him was somewhere in the range of about 150. That's where I see him on Amazon. So let me just look at some stuff here. Thank you, Mirage. Fig, don't ever apologize for having to deal with your kids. Yes, you can catch the rest of the replay. I got another 30 minutes on the show, so definitely catch up on that. I hope you have a good time getting your son. Thank you, Mirage. He's one of my faves. And different question from Captain Spaulding. Here's a question: is an animatronic considered a toy? So that is an interesting question, and I would say from a collector standpoint, anything you collect. And see, I agree with Mirage. I'm gonna say yes and no. I would say an animatronic. That's okay. So let's use an example. The transforming figures, like the Optimus Prime and the Megatron, that are like $1,200, are those toys? Yes and no. They're adult collectibles. Like I'm not gonna give it to my 3-year-old to go say, "Here's a $1,200 transformer that you can play with on the phone." And no, but is it technically yes? So it depends. Like I know that you're into animatronics, and I do know that a couple of figures do have abilities that mimic that. And see, and I agree with Mirage, right? Hear what he's saying. He says we have robot toys like RoboSens that are technically animatronic. So yeah, I would say that that could be considered. So there is a definite correlation to the collecting. So I would agree. But see, yeah, like a Disney park ride isn't, and I will agree with that. Like if I were to say like take a Tiana, like a Tiana animatronic and put it in the house, that's not that's a collectible, but it's not a toy because it requires a power source to activate, and it's part of something else. So yeah, I could agree with that. So like a RoboSen or like a Hex Bug, those are collectibles and those are robots. So yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean Gundams too. Like I mean, look at Gundams. Gundams themselves are like Gunpla has become a huge thing because of the pandemic. There's a lot. So again, so now let's go even further to this end. I want to hit the final tier of the high end collector, and the final tier of the high end collector is, and I'll grab him because he's right here. Final tier of the high end collector, 1/6 scale Hot Toy. Hot Toys retail retail. Hey, KBG. So Hot Toys retail, I did not pay this for this, just to let you know. Hot Toys retail for about $400. $300 is, I would say 300 is a fair guesstimate for a newer one that doesn't have a whole lot of accessories. Now, again, notice the quality you pay with each tier I've gone up from $24 to $105. Quality, accessories, you know, two big things that people care about, right? We care about what we get and how we get it, how we consume what we get, to the ultimate in quality. Yes, I would say, Cap, we do agree that it's borderline. Now, Hot Toys obviously is probably and will probably be the ultimate in the collector standard next to statues. And I don't, statues are not articulated. So Hot Toys are as close as you're going to get. Now, as an adult, big action figure. Now, if you look at it, I'm going to go straight for the top. Hot Toys Hulkbuster, $1,200 Hot Toy. It's a figure that you could put another Hot Toy inside of and articulates. $1,200 retail. So that's the high end. Now let's shift to vintage. I don't collect vintage, but the highest end vintage figure you can purchase that I've seen is, well, I know that there's a Hulk Hogan mail away that I see in Seth's video at Bits and Buttons. I'm going to use that one. $3,500, and it was a exclusive you could only order back in the 80s. Mail order figures were a huge thing back then. I used to do them with the Steel Brigade, GI Joes, where you'd be able to like fill out their stuff. So look at it from that perspective. A mail away figure, right? 35 vintage. You can't get it anywhere. It's exclusive, right? 3,500 bucks. Now let's go to a more modern vintage, with Star Wars Black Series, right? Star Wars Black Series has the vintage collection line. Now, Star Wars, that vintage line, I never got into it, but I do see the appeal of it. The vintage figures, 3 3/4, a lot more articulation, a little bit more thing, right? There's not a lot of value in them now. But Jabba Sail Barge. At most, I know my shop has one for sale, $1,500, never removed from the box. That was a HasLab, right? But then you have, I've seen this like an Ewok Village, brand new in box, an original Millennium Falcon in box, vintage collection, thousands, hundreds, couple hundreds. That's for vehicles. We haven't even talked about figures. Vintage figures can range from loose in plastic where you're never going to touch it for 30, 40, $50 just for that one figure to hundreds. Watch Not Another Retro channel. Dude is collecting, doing grails, and he was buying figures $300. Loose and he's never going to touch. Not knocking him for doing it, just like, holy shit. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not spending that much money, even if I had that much, on something that I can't tangibly move and articulate and play with, and like, no way, no way, no way. Like, yeah. Now, granted, I say that, and my number one Grail is a CGC graded comic book, which I've read, but I'm never going to take out and read again. So that's what I want. So yeah, go figure. So I'm not being a hypocrite. It's just I'm literally just like, I cannot see the love for that, but I appreciate the collectors that do it. Um, I'll even use Yukon Phil. He got a Grail in the Megatron, brand new in box, sealed. That his family bought him. That's a freaking dope thing, you know? Like, I mean, if I could have gotten a G1 Optimus like that, he got a G1 Megatron. That's awesome. Those are priceless to some collectors. So you have to look at where do you sit in that realm as a collector? Where do you sit? Do you sit in that, like, the new ground where you tolerate the shitty distribution? And I'm cursing because there's no other words to use for it. It's shitty distribution versus, you know, if you go to the stores, you lucky if you find it, or you deal with Amazon, Walmart, or the plethora of online websites you could shop from. You know, there's so many. Where do you go? Or do you do what I do? You shop high end, and it's a lower pool, a lot longer to wait for it. It's usually pre-order based, but I know what I'm getting quality wise versus me just having a figure that I'm gonna have. Now, granted, people say, "Well, Dre, you pick up Spider-Man Marvel Legends," because I'm placeholding them in my collection because I'm in the hopes that Mafex SH Figure Arts will eventually make a version of it that I could get. Spider-Man Noir. I just gave Dave my Marvel Legends Spider-Man Noir. Why? Because Sentinel created a Spider-Man Noir. Scarlet Spider. I am getting myself a Mafex Scarlet Spider. My Scarlet Spider is going to leave my collection. You know, there's so many figures that I have been able to score from Mafex, from SH Figure Arts, that they have produced a higher end, better version of it that I didn't want the Marvel Legend. You know, yeah, and I know people tell me, oh, well, there's Diamond Select. Like Dave was telling me, there's Diamond Select. And Diamond Select's not bad. It's just not my. I don't like 7-inch figures. They don't scale well unless you get like a Hulk or like a Beta Ray Bill. Now, Mirage, let's see what you said here. You said, I somewhat stopped buying figures in stores, not really because of distribution, but rather none of them make sense. And that's the other thing too. And I'm gonna cover that in a second. I like that you brought that up. And you said, I only get imports. Yeah, and you and I've talked about this. A lot of the times we both usually get imports. A lot of the times, you know, and but when you think about this, and I want to address this, nothing really excites you. That speaks volumes as a collector. Think about that, folks. Nothing excites you. If you're walking into a Target just to go into a Target for content for your YouTube channel, why are you doing it? If it doesn't excite you, content, the content that drives me to do content is things I have a passion for. When I love it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. If I don't have an interest in it, why am I going to talk about it? That's the truth. That is 110% the truth. Why talk about something because you want to feed the algorithm? You want to get views? Okay, that's cool. Do that. I don't care about that shit. I care about what do I want to do to get a narrative, to produce something that's fun and great and interesting. And that's a rarity these days. A lot of people don't like to do that. And I find it interesting. So, just something that you guys can think about. So, if you don't feel, and as a collector, this is when I tell people that maybe it's time to pause your collecting. And I've been there and I've done this where I've sold off whole collections just because I lost interest. If you're losing that fire, if you're not feeling that fire, pause. Save your money. Especially if you are a person that has kids like myself. I have 3 kids. I have a wife. I'm very happy. But at the same time, use that money on them. Go treat them. do something fun with your kids and your family. Go to like do something you wouldn't normally do. Hey, let's all go to a nice dinner. Let's all go do something together and turn that experience from that collecting thing to an experience. You'll appreciate it a lot more, and I guarantee you it means more to them than it does in that moment for you. And that's my advice as a dad. I've realized that, and it's 110% the truth. Let's see what Mirage said. He said, I actually saw someone retiring from collecting and has a bunch of old yet good stuff for affordable prices. Saw two Saint Seiya figures for $50 each. Wow. For those of you that don't know, Saint Seiya is like some of the most high end SH figure arts. Next, I would say the Monster Arts Godzilla, the Monster Arts figures like the Godzillas, the Mothras that are like hundreds of dollars. I like that. He's like a little broke, but I would consider it. Yeah, I think I think I'm in that same vein. I would there's certain things I consider, but like I said, my hot toys were funded by selling older stuff off. So that's the way I was gonna do it. Like if I had stuff that was sitting, you know, gotta go. And I did that with my other two hot toys, Cap and Bucky. I had stuff that was just sitting and I got rid of it. So, you know, so in this last, 9 minutes of the show, 8 minutes, 8.5 minutes I got left. I wanted to kind of know, what do you guys did you guys like what we talked about? You guys have any questions you want to ask me? Use this time because I'm going to do a little bit of show and tell while we're doing this. I did pick up. Oh, I shouldn't say picked up. This came in. I finally got Sandland. This is the second to last Akira Toriyama video game for PlayStation 5. Now I do have a disc PlayStation 5. That's the reason I picked this up. Um, I have two. I have the one in my bedroom, my wife's bedroom, and my bedroom. We have a non-disc PS5, and then I have this one in the living room. That's for me. So this is definitely one. And then I finally was able, because of KBG, I was finally able to find a copy because no one's had a copy of this anywhere of Tears of the Kingdom. So those were two of the other pickups I had. So let me see. We have some questions or comments here. I also been going cheaper nowadays when it comes to collecting. Like I focus on collecting Tomika cars, now specifically like the premium ones. I get my money's worth for something very cheap. That's that's another trend I would say has become a thing. Hot Wheels. Here in the States, it's Hot Wheels. I would say higher end collectors that are looking for like those rare cars would look at Tomika, which are the Asian and import vehicles. So that is kind of cool. You know. Um, let me see. There was some other stuff I had here. I showed you guys the Rambo, the Cap. Trying to see. Yeah, I don't think that. Oh, I did. Okay, so I don't buy wrestling figures often, and I do. I do have to talk about this. I don't pick them up often, but I've been on a kick lately of wanting wrestlers that are minorities like myself, and it's hard to find them. And that's what I guess makes the hunt more interesting to me to find these figures. So I am reaching out to my friends in the community if they can find the figures I'm missing. If you want to do trades, I have stuff for trade. We could always talk about something, you know. But I did pick up Anthony Bowens from the Acclaimed from AEW, and I need his tag team partner, which is Max Caster. But I also need Swerve Strickland. He is the current AEW World Champion, and I cannot find Swerve anywhere. He's in this wave, and the only figures they had left at Target were the Tony Storm, which I don't want. They had the Ricky Starks, which I already have, and they had Anthony Bowen, so I grabbed him. Now, if anybody sees the Max Caster or the Billy Gunn, because I could finish the Acclaimed with those three, I would love that. And if anybody can find me a Swerve Strickland, I would be extremely happy for that. So like I said, I don't always pick figures up like this, but recently I've been wanting to pick up more characters of that are, people of color. Yeah, I like that. I have Damian Priest already. I need to get the new world title belt so I can put it on him. So I had to get him a new world heavyweight championship belt because I have Damian Priest. I just don't have him as his. I don't have his Judgment Day outfit. So I do see Mirage. You said, and recently you got the Fies, and ooh, Ixa. Yeah, I do know that Ixa was they did a reissue of Ixa. I did see that on the Tamashi, the Bandai website, as an exclusive. And I did hear about and I just saw the Gridman. Yeah, I just literally saw Gridman go up today. So for those of you that don't know Gridman, Gridman was in here, the Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad figures. I did pre-order um, the 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 Cyber Squad vehicles, or the Gridman with all the vehicles that attached to make the armor. There was a figure. It was actually a limited pre-order on Entertainment Earth, which I don't pre-order from them often, but I did pre-order from them, and it's supposed to be due out in late July, early August. So I look forward to that figure coming out. Now, Garbage Pail Kids. You know what's funny? I used to have a friend that collected the Garbage Pail Kids cards, which are cool. But it's kind of funny. Like I never I collected the cards as a kid. I just never, I know kids that actually people that collected the figures. There was a lot of stuff. There was actually a lot of merchandise for that. So, but yeah, in closing, I hope you guys like this first episode. It's gonna be live. I'm never gonna pre-record these. They'll always be lives. It was later today because, like I said when I started the video, sadly my youngest one, she had a rough night, and you know she was up late, which kept me up late, which is advantageous because it's my day off. But when it's my day off and I'm exhausted, and I was like, I really don't want to stay awake. But you know, thank you. I appreciate you, Mirage. Thank you guys again. Like I said, like this show is it's a live show, so I like to go an hour unless I have something to do. It's gonna be 12:30 Eastern Standard U.S. time till 1:30, like 1:30 the latest, or it's gonna be 12 to 1. So feel free to come if you guys want to ever come in and talk. I always welcome it. They are going to be themed episodes a little bit. Like I do like a little bit of a topic to discuss. Um, I feel like it makes the show go a little bit smoother. Like you guys saw today, we talked about trends. Next week, we're going to talk about grails. We're going to literally we're going to go into why the word grail is used. And there'll be another thing, which I'll leave for next week. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, my friends, stay geeky, y'all. Peace.